Real talk, real impact, unfiltered and unapologetic. This is FemmeIcon.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Mahvish Akhtar, and we're here with another episode of FemmeIcon. Today we're talking about digital burnout and how it's affecting our lives. And is there even is such a thing as digital burnout? You know, and you can have a different opinion, and we can discuss that as well. We were supposed to have a discussion on it on Thursday, but I had a kind of a minor accident, and I wasn't able to sit. So I figured we'll delay it. But what happens is that if we skip one session, then we end up moving on to the next session, and then that topic just kind of gets left in the middle. So फिर recycle करना, मतलब going back to that topic, वो फिर all topics आते जाते हैं, and then we just say कि कर लेंगे, eventually हो जाएगा. And usually it doesn't. So yeah. So we figured, let's do this one in the beginning of the week, and then we'll come back to, we'll just pick up from our regular sessions on Thursday. So you will see me on Thursday as well. We'll wait for some people to join while we talk about other things. Hope you guys are all doing well and your summer is going well. My summer is about to be over. Hi. Assalamu alaikum. Hi to whoever has just joined. My kids, their school's starting soon. Agli hafte from Monday. And according to my goals, and my vacation is starting now, actually, जब school शुरू होगा, which is very, very accurate. Hi, Maham and Sajil, I believe. So yeah, that's what's happening on my end. What else? So I know the topic is a little bit, people tend to get extremely personal when it comes to that. Like how online, how much we are online, and how much, how much social media we're consuming, and how much so we're basically just talking about social media specifically, right? So before we get into that, I want to make this clear that this is not like, because obviously what we do here at Femmerepublica, everything is online. Everything is on social media. So we're not here to just dump on social media use and just kind of talk about how terrible social media is, because obviously it's not. And after the Industrial Revolution, this is the biggest revolution in terms of how things changed and how the marketplace changed, consumerism changed, information, the influx of information changed. And for the good, in many ways for the good. So iska maqsad ye nahi hai ki, astaghfirullah, this is such a terrible thing. But at the same time, जो भी कोई invention होती है, कोई भी नई चीज डिस्कवर होती है या पता चलती है, तो उसके साथ अच्छा यूज भी है, उसका बुरा यूज भी है, right? That's just how the world works. And that's up to us कि हम उसे कैसे यूज करें. So that's what we're going to talk about. What is this thing? Do we truly even understand it? we're using this tool that is constantly at our disposal, but do we fully understand it? And I know कि जब young adults से कहा जाता है, so they just feel like, oh, what do you know? You know, and that's the point of this whole thing, that we need to then find out together. Maybe we don't know. Maybe that's the whole thing. Maybe we first, Walaikum Assalam, Musa. Maybe that's the first, step. Let's learn what this is. Or iska purpose kya tha? And at some point, it doesn't even matter your purpose kya tha. But we do need to know. And then did it get used for that purpose? And then what are we using it for? And what happens if it actually is being used for the purpose that it was built for or discovered for, or however it was named, right? So that's where we will start. Okay. What was the purpose? When did it start? Why did it start? So, as we know, okay, जो industrial revolution थी, industries वगैरह, they were in mid-20th century, right? उस वक्त ये था कि economy started, kicking in, वो सारा कुछ जो हुआ World War II or all of that उसमें, then they needed an economical boost or industrial revolution. उसको हम अच्छी तरह से समझते हैं, we've read it over and over again, and school में and all of that. And if anybody needs a brief catch-up, I'm happy to do that for you. But uske baad, then there had to be something else, like more technology. The people needed people se matlab ye hai ki government and big businesses, they needed more. It's all about making money. Everything is a business. You have to remember that. Everything happens, every new invention, everything new that comes out is because people need to make money. Big, companies and governments need to make money. So they hire people, intelligent, extremely knowledgeable people, and they put them to work. And those people want to create. Right? So they start to create. And there are some very smart ones जो उनसे हट के अपना काम खुद करते हैं, obviously, but a lot of them जो ज़रा earlier history में, they don't have the resources, so they just work with the government because at least they're getting to create, right? So around 60s or 70s में ऐसे ही हुआ. And 60s is a time, as I'm sure most of you know, कि टीवी भी उसी ज़माने में पहले होता था, लेकिन कलर टीवी उसी ज़माने में आया. और पहले जो है वो क्वाइट फिल्म्स होती थी, where there was no dialogue, फिर dialogue वाली. अब फिर टीवी आया, पहले movies थी, फिर टीवी आया 60s or 70s when you could have TV at your home, and it was a big deal. And that is when 1978 Randy Suess and Ward Christensen, these are the people who kind of came up with the idea of internet. उससे पहले ये तो था कि ज़ाहिर है wireless communication, war में और इस तरह walkie talkies ये सब तो था, radio communication भी होती थी. But उससे ही they got the idea of, hey, we could put these things together and we could, and I'm not going to go into how they did it and what happened. And then जब आहिस्ता आहिस्ता बढ़ता गया in the 90s में, then it became कि computer, आपके घर में जो computer है, उसमें you can send emails. 6degrees.com, Google it if you don't know what that is. Unfortunately, I'm that old that I know what that is, and I've used it. And with Spay, you could create profiles and you could talk to other people, connect with your friends. Basically, first it was just connect with your friends, talk to people that you know. Then it was, I'm going to take a lot of names, and Tell me if you recognize these. Because I'm recognizing all of these, and I've used a lot of these. Bolt, that was another one, another platform. I didn't use Bolt, but I've heard of it. And you could email on Bolt, I've heard. And then there was Orkut and MySpace, and gosh, there were so many. Okay. So yeah, so all of these, this was the 90s where you could, and then you could also connect with strangers, and you could connect with other people. Ideas kept, getting better and better, and so and then, Facebook and all of these other things that started coming in. But the 2000s were actually the time when social media, the concept of social media, LinkedIn came in somewhere in between too, but LinkedIn was obviously always, the idea was, okay, we're going to give people a chance to connect with employers, potential employers, and connect with other people who are looking for similar jobs, or people who are working in the same field, and which is happening now, but it's also become a social space now. But then in the 2000s, people realized कि ये जो हम spaces बना रहे हैं, we are just thinking of them उस वक्त तक 2000 से पहले जो spaces थी, you chat with people, you make communities, groups बनते थे कि आप एक दूसरे से बात कर रहे हैं, you're getting kind of help in the sense of कि आपको that you're going through something, that you have a few people आप उनसे बातचीत कर लें and feel better a little bit, and उस तरह का. But at that time, people were not aware of the issues of talking to other people that you don't know, the danger with strangers and all of those people. उसकी इतनी कोई खास वो नहीं थी उस ज़माने में. Then when the 90s came around and all of these other, and the reason I'm mentioning all of these apps, there's a purpose to that. Then all of these apps started coming out more and more. And at that time, like in the 90s and early 2000s, we were looking at these apps because that was, in the 90s, I was a teenager. And then, towards the 2000s, we were at first looking at these apps as just fun, just having a good time, and talking to our friends, and maybe make some stranger friends, people we didn't know, and it was just good fun. And when they stopped appearing or stopped talking, we were done. We didn't really care. Okay, whatever. So that was the extent of what we were doing. But around the 2000s, people realized, the advertisers and the big companies and even the government and all of these people realized that people are on the internet more and more and more. And I will give you statistics a little bit later. And this is something that people are doing constantly. They're on it because it's easier, right? And you get more people to look at whatever it is that's in front of them. Because उस ज़माने में जिस तरह से ads होते थे, वो होते थे online, इन चीज़ों पर भी. But the way we had ads, like I've been in the publishing business since, again, the 90s. So जिस तरह से होते थे ads, like when we had to give ad, because I had a paper magazine, and then there came a time in the 90s, everybody's like, nobody reads, nobody cares about that. Don't waste your time actually printing out, a whole newspaper, a whole magazine, and putting it, and having it distribute. It's a waste of money. That's basically होता है कि तुम पूरा वो एक design होता है. I'm sorry, I'm just touching random things. पूरा design होता है. उसके बाद उसको, design. If you're getting designing done, for a paper magazine, that costs more. फिर उसको publish करने में, printing करवाने में, that costs more. फिर उसकी distribution में, that costs extra. So you just cut out all these steps and just put it on a website. That's going to cost you way less, which is true. It did, but we needed ads to pay for all, even जो भी हम कर रहे थे. तो जैसे कि हम आप जो रेगुलर मैगजीन होता है, पेपर मैगजीन, उसके लिए भी एड्स चाहिए होते हैं. इवन जो अभी भी एग्जिस्टिंग पेपर मैगजीन्स हैं उनमें एड्स होते हैं. दैट्स हाउ दे पे फॉर एवरीथिंग. सो वी यूज्ड टू, जो हमारे एड्स थे उनको फिर हमने बैनर एड्स की तरह ऊपर, या दे वुड जस्ट पॉप अप, और इस तरह डिफरेंट तरीकों से हम उनको वो कर देते थे. नाउ द स्टाइल इज कंप्लीटली डिफरेंट. बट व्हेन दैट स्टार्टेड हैपनिंग and more people did that, but us waqt the option was only to have magazines, full magazines. Like you would have a website, you would click on it and something would pop up, and then you would click on it and articles would pop up. So it was like a proper magazine. When that started happening, the potential in that to make money and spend less, that started to really show itself to the people who were trying to sell their material, right? So then they started to make more and more apps that had, with different ideas, that could sell. They could sell their products, sell more of it with less content. Because people like me and people who join other people like me, you know, in my team, we're also trying to provide content. So we're not going to, you know, shrink our content or make a 20-second video and then put a lengthy 1 minute 30-second video or whatever ad attached to it. Because that 20-second part is not what people are concerned with. They're concerned with the ad because it's beautiful, it's glamorous, you know, pretty colors. So that's what they aimed to do. So this, you know, they kind of switched up the system. So that's when the rise of other social media platforms like Flickr, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, that is the intention behind all these all of these platforms. Now, that doesn't mean that we have to use them in that way, or we have to be used by these platforms and fall for these tricks. Because what happens, अगर आपने अपनी चीज़ें डाली हैं, आपके एल्गोरिथम में वो चीज़ें आ रही हैं जो आपको पसंद हैं और आप enjoy करते हैं, but then you will see a million different ads, and you do get tempted to click on those. So that's the purpose. The sellers are trying to sell you. You will see a 20-second clip of something that you like, but then you'll see 5 different ads of things that you like, that you would want to buy. But before the mid-90s, that wasn't the case. We were still communicating with people, even with strangers. We're playing games. Video games. There were some platforms where you could, you know, play video games with each other. Games were not as advanced as they are now, no way, but we could. But there were no ads. Not in this way, not the way we get now. Or up to, you know, there are even the videos that we're enjoying are just pure ads. You know, they're purely just selling things. Like, you know, they're putting on makeup and all it is an ad because they have products and they're showing you the product. That's just one example because those are the kind of videos I watch these days. Because I don't know how to do any of this stuff. So that's the purpose for creation for these things. So that's when this was, again, the Industrial Revolution was to make money. That was the whole purpose of it, which makes sense. It's fine. It exploited many people. That's when it became the problem. Like, you want to make money, you want to make big industries, you want your country to flourish, and पूरे यूरोप में ये फैला, फिर ज़ाहिर हमारी countries में इस तरफ भी आया, and yeah, but the problem was that the little people were being crushed by it. They were being abused. उनके उनसे काम लिया जा रहा था, लेकिन उनको कोई पे नहीं दी जा रही थी. Farmers के पूरे के पूरे farms उनसे basically ले लिए गए थे, वो काम उसमें कर रहे थे, but they didn't own the farms anymore. And same thing over here, that these platforms are available, but we can't use them. I mean, we can use them, लेकिन हम जिस तरह यूज करना चाहते हैं, हम जिस तरह हमें करना चाहिए, first of all, we can't use them that way. और हमें इनका सच बताया नहीं जा रहा कि, by the way, you are just in this space for us to take your money, and we're not even going to tell you the truth on how we're doing it. We're just going to hide all this from you and just kind of take it. And then they're upping the game constantly, making it harder and harder to avoid those ads and those all those things that come our way. We don't have an option to just say, no, I don't want these ads. I don't want these things to be in front of me constantly. I just want to have fun and just look at things that I want to look at. और yeah, कभी-कभार अगर उन चीज़ों का जो मुझे वाकई में पसंद है, जो मुझे देखनी है, उनका ऐड आ जाता तो खैर है, but I don't want to be bombarded with it. We don't have that option. So now what's happened is, obviously, as we know, because social media is like a very important part of our lives. Now it's not just, oh yeah, we need to see this, open up social media for just a little while, just look at it because I'm bored, so I'll just scroll for a little while and I need to check this information, so I'm just going to look through and find it. अब ये बात नहीं है. अब ये हो गया है कि we can't survive without it. That it's become like not just one or two platforms. We have to go through every single platform, right? However many we have to look through all of them and just make sure that we're up to date. Make sure that we have looked at everything and we have figured out कि हम कौन सी उसमें कहाँ हैं और सबका देख लिया और फलां कर दिया. We have to do all of that. Now we're at that place, so it's we're on a different level now. Now we have to decide that is that a healthy place to be in? Like, do we feel we're in a healthy place? And that's not a decision that anybody else can make for us. I can't sit here and tell you, you're doing fine. That's good for you. And you can't decide that for me either. So that's a decision that we're going to have to make for ourselves. Here are some statistics. Uske baad we'll go to what a burnout looks like. And then we can see if we're even at a burnout. I'm just going to talk about Pakistan because it doesn't really matter what other countries are doing. We have to look at ourselves, right? Okay, in January 2025, let me just bring it a little bit forward so we are, Jan 2025, 66.9 million Pakistanis were on social media, which is 24.6%. GSMA intelligence shows that there were 190 million cellular connections across Pakistan. That's 75.2%, which is fine. 161 million internet users. So between 2024 and 2025, कितने percent? 1.7 million users increase हुए. Now, the countries that use social media the most, first is China, 1.1 billion users. Second is India, 462 million. Third is United States, 239 million. And turning the page. Fourth is the Netherlands and Portugal. They have the same amount. The ages generally in all countries is similar, which is between 18 and 24. That's across the world. That's the age that uses social media the most. Now, why is burnout such a concern? So average 2 to 4 hours people use social media in a day. And after 2 hours, it becomes concerning. That's when it can be said that, okay, that's probably, probably not healthy to be using that much. And what are the signs? Like, what happens if you use too much? Why is that a problem? Like, why are we so concerned? And, my kids are very young. They're 12 and 13. And they'll tell you that, Ami's insane. She's always asking us to just relax a little bit. They don't have internet connection in the sense that just on the phone, always scrolling or whatever, their WhatsApp groups with their friends are on my phone still, but they're always complaining about this. Like, why are you stopping us? And why can't we do this on the internet? And why can't we do that on the internet? And it's really hard to explain to them how people's personalities change because of things that they're doing or they're consuming, on the internet. So excessive exposure, and that's what's called burnout. So we're going to discuss two things: digital burnout and social media addiction. And they're very closely related. So burnout is just when you just don't know what to do with all the information that's coming at you and you feel overwhelmed. That's basically the definition of digital burnout. That's when you feel anxious. You start to feel apathy for different situations, and not just what you're seeing, but for people around you, because you're exposed to certain things so much that they don't seem real anymore. And depression, no interest in anything around you, and you will see in yourself, even if you're not admitting it to anyone around you or even to your own self, that you've lost interest, right? Like, if you're not on the internet, if you're not doing on the computer, on the phone, mostly on the phone, what you want to do, be on social media, then you're not interested in anything else. Like, you've lost focus and you've lost the fun in other things that you had. And there's a need for constant connectivity, like constant and always, and you have to, whatever you're doing, you have to put it on, you have to show it, you have to, like, just always the need to always show people, the need to always let people know that something that this is happening in my life right now. This is, and we'll talk about why that's an important point, because that becomes very, very crucial, because then you feel like you have something to prove. You have to show people that you have a certain kind of life, right? Because something happens and you have to take a picture and then you have to put it up, right? You do something and then you have to show it. Nothing can go unseen. Nothing can go unlooked at. Like, we were Not this Eid, like, से पिछली जो Eid थी, we were all, just by chance, हमारी सारी फैमिली, मेरी बहनें और उनके सारे बच्चे, और हम लोग सब, we were all together after a very, very long time. Hi, Mariam, and thank you for calling me beautiful. I appreciate that. So we were all together, and it was really funny because we hadn't been all together in one place in a very, very long time, and we had a very good time. And so then we have after Eid, after a long time, we were all gone back home, different places, different houses. We have a group together, and we were thinking of changing the picture on that group. बहुत पुरानी कोई एक picture थी, तो we were trying to think of कि कौन सी picture लगाएं उस पे, and we were thinking कि हमारी कोई pictures ईद की है, and then we were all like हमने कोई picture नहीं खींची इस ईद पे, like इतने सारे लोग थे, इतनी सारी हमारी family members और भी थे, और हमने कोई भी हमारी picture नहीं, and I was kind of looking through all the pictures, and I realized कि हमारी कोई भी इस ईद की, उस ईद की हमारी कोई भी तस्वीर नहीं थी, कोई भी वीडियो एक दूसरे के साथ हमारी as a group नहीं थी. I was like, why would we do that? We usually take pictures. Like, why didn't we take any picture? And I realized that we were having so much fun. We were together, we were doing things, and not just the day of Eid, but the day after, and then the day after, and the day before that. We were so engaged with each other, with talking to each other, having fun with, not just us sisters and their kids, but their kids' kids, and, with the whole family, that taking pictures and showing, of course, there are memories too. I totally get that. And we do take pictures for the sake of memories, but we were so just, busy connecting with each other that we didn't need, pictures to prove that, look, we were here together, because we all have that up here, and it's going to stay up here. And we are going to always remember that in that way, that we have it, right? But when you are doing everything for other people inside your platform, then you need the picture, and then you need to prove, look how happy we are, and look how much fun we're having. So that's the need that becomes important. So that's one of the things, that you're constantly connected, constantly feeding that platform. So Mariam, you can look at, we have the topic up here. You can look at that. It's written up here. And then again, like I said, information overload. There's so much information. If there's one topic and you just want some information on it, you'll type the information, the topic somewhere, and then you will get so much information that you won't even want to know about that anymore. वो need खत्म हो जाती है कि okay, मुझे नहीं पता करना, and then you're confused, but you're not left satisfied कि अच्छा, now I know. ठीक है ना, कि ये नहीं होता कि अच्छा अब मुझे पता चल गया, now I have that information. You're actually more confused. You're actually more like, this doesn't help me. Now I don't know what I'm supposed to believe. कि ये सही है या ये सही है, ये सही है. So, of course, we need the internet. We need the internet to connect with other people, to get information, to, for so many different things. But we're talking specifically about the platforms. वहाँ से जो information आती है is, we can't be sure it's extremely accurate, right? अब फिर दूसरी चीज़ होती है कि you lose focus. If you're on it 2, 3, 4 hours a day, you can't multitask. Multitasking वैसे ही is distracting, right? And when you're multitasking with social media, you will definitely lose focus. Definitely lose focus. Because social media is not made for multitasking. Social media is something you do in your leisure time. When you're relaxed and you're just there to have fun, that's when you can do social media. So if you're trying to multitask, oh yeah, I'm also working and I'm going to, just scroll, it doesn't work. And that is confusing for your brain. And that distraction blurs, makes your brain foggy. I could say this better, but I'll say it better in other examples. All right. So when we're talking about it makes your brain foggy, it makes you, it kind of, makes your brain tired and fatigued when you're not getting. So if you're trying to do two things, you're trying to concentrate on something like your work or your studies, ठीक है ना? And साथ में you're scrolling, for example, and you have this information coming in, and then you're trying to take on this information. So your brain is going to mix those two pieces of information, right? And your brain is going to kind of confuse those. So you will get tired because your brain is working overtime at the same time, trying to do too many tasks together. So आपकी brain तो थकेगी ना, and it's going to get confused and get tired, and it will obviously be actually literally tired. And then when your brain is tired, then what happens to your body? Physical effects होते हैं ना body पे, right? So those effects are, you're gonna have headaches, you're gonna have muscle pain, because everything that happens in your brain has physical effects because your brain is making your body work. So you're having muscle pain and problems sleeping, your energy is down. All of these things happen because of that. A lot of times you'll hear young people saying, I'm tired and I can't. And I know that we used to say that to our mom, and she used to be like, Tum itni young ho, tum abhi se kya thakna shuru ho gayi. I know, she used to say that. And it's the same thing. Our kids say that to us, and we're like, this is because you're sitting on the computer all day. It's because you don't. I know, it's like the cycle. But right now, it's a scientific fact. Because we're seeing, scientifically, we're seeing the energy level dropping. We're seeing the correlation between how much time you spend on your phone scrolling and the energy level and the aches and pains and all of these things. So it's not really about, somebody just being a mom and saying these things and somebody just, it's actual burnout. It's the body actually speaking up that this is not okay with me. I am having physical reactions to this activity. And then, of course, there's, these were physical things, but there's emotional, reactions. Like we talked about, there's anxiety, there's depression, and there's feelings of loneliness, there's emptiness, difficult connecting with people face to face, difficult communicating, difficult having relationships in real life, even with family and friends. Not just with new people or strangers, but even with family and friends. अगर आप millennials से Gen Z को consider करें तो जैसे जैसे generations ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा social media के platforms आते जा रहे हैं, they're having a harder and harder time with communications, social skills, and making connections with people, and all those things. And again, these are not just things that I'm saying because I'm from that generation. No, these are actual, studied by science facts. These are things that are actually hindering in education and job market, getting employed for Gen Z right now. And it's going to be a bigger problem for the upcoming generation. So you remember our parents, the boomer generation, you remember? उनके लिए किसी से बात करना, किसी के साथ कोई गपशप, कोई सा कुछ बिल्कुल भी मुश्किल नहीं था, राइट? कभी कोई मुश्किल हुई नहीं. तभी उनसे कहा आपने क्या पूछा, हर बात पूछने बैठ जाते हैं. बताइए वजह से क्या, नहीं जवाब देंगे तो नहीं देंगे, नहीं बात करनी हुई तो नहीं करेंगे. उनके लिए कभी मुश्किल नहीं था किसी से भी बात कर लेना. हम लोगों का, आई एम टेक्निकली जेन एक्स, मेरे लिए फिर भी फ़ोन उठाना, फ़ोन पे किसी से बात करना थोड़ा मुश्किल होता है. आई प्रेफर कि मुझे कोई टेक्स्ट करे और मैं टेक्स्ट पे जवाब दे दूँ. और अगर मुझे लगता है कि अच्छा टेक्स्ट पे बात नहीं हो पाएगी तो ज़रूरी है तो मैं कर लूँगी कॉल, राइट? बट फॉर माई मॉम and even my older sisters, they're much older than me. Much older मतलब ये कि they're, you know, they're in between boomer and Gen X, kind of. They'll pick up the phone, they'll talk for hours, and I don't like to do that. लेकिन उनके लिए कोई मसला नहीं है. वो बड़ों से भी conversation कर लेंगे, छोटों से भी conversation कर लेंगे, हर एक से बात बिल्कुल आराम से कर लेंगे. That was that generation. Their communication was just, you know, perfect. अब हमारी जनरेशन में इट वाज द सेम थिंग, यू नो. वी डिडंट, हमें थोड़ी सी टेक्सटिंग में प्रॉब्लम हुई क्योंकि लेटर आई टेक्सटिंग हमारी लाइफ में. फ़ोन पे ये था कि बस वी डिडंट हैव फोन्स अवेलेबल टू अस लाइक दिस कि हम हर वक्त लोगों से बात करते रहे फ़ोन पे, बिकॉज वी वर लाइक फोन्स वर काइंड ऑफ एक्सपेंसिव एंड यू नो पैसे लगते थे व्हाटएवर. पर हमारी जो वैसे कम्युनिकेशन है लोगों से, बड़ों से छोटों से, we know how to talk to people. We're good at customer service. You know, we went everywhere with our parents. And those of us who are not good at it, वो हमारी personality है. That's lack in our own personality. I don't like to talk to people on the phone for too long. I'm not a very sociable person, but that's my personality. About millennials, now millennials have this issue कि फ़ोन पे बात नहीं करनी, टेक्स्ट कर दे, बिकॉज उनके टाइम तक टेक्स्ट आ चुका था एंड एवरीबडी वाज टेक्सटिंग. विद दरवाजे पे भी आएगा तो दे वोंट रिंग द बेल, दे विल टेक्स्ट यू आई एम हियर. अब मेरे साथ ये होता है कि somebody texts me I'm here and I just ring the bell. So I'm supposed to tell somebody in the house that you are here and they can open the door. If you just ring the bell, so ये सारा process, like why are you making this a problem for me? Just ring the bell. So this is a different in culture. And this is a very small example. Ab ye jo generation आई, Gen Z की जो generation है, they can't communicate. They don't know how to talk to people. They don't know how to express themselves. They don't want to be around people. They're awkward around people. It seems like almost like they don't want to be where they are. They don't ever want to be where they are. And I'm including my kids in that as well. Because anytime we're out, anytime we're going, okay, but what about a computer time? Okay, but can I go back to this? But am I still going to get to go to, you know, my computer time and my this time and my, just their focus is that. They'll go out and they'll have fun, definitely have fun. But then they want to make sure that unka jo wo time hai na, that's the most important thing to them. And of course, there's a whole world inside there. I mean, unko the gaming, they're into gaming, so that's what they want to do. But I'm just saying, in general, there's a whole world inside there. Jo hum platforms ki baat kar rahe hain, there's a whole world inside it. And that's why you want to live in that world. But that world pulls you away from the real world. And why does that fake world become more important? हमने ये बात कर ली ना कि उसकी वजह से you are being pulled away from the real world. You don't know how to survive in the real world. You just want to do your due diligence कि जो काम करना है वो जल्दी से करो, जो चीज़ करनी है वो जल्दी से करो, and then come back to your fake world. But that's not the real world. Now, what are the factors जिसकी वजह से हमने ऑलमोस्ट जो फेक वर्ल्ड है उसको अपना रियल वर्ल्ड बना लिया है. अब होता क्या है कि वी आर putting our efforts and our time into this fake world. अब हो क्या रहा है कि now we have to be perfect in this fake world because it's more fun. Real world moves very slowly, right? Fake world is just fast, quick. But then we have to be perfect in this world. So what do we need to do? There's a pressure to be perfect. एक वो प्रेशर है कि हमको इस वर्ल्ड में अपने आप को हमें परफेक्ट पर्सोना अचीव करना है. We have to, when we're putting pictures, we have to make sure we're perfect. We have to make sure our life looks perfect. Like we said, we have to prove to be something where we may not be. And that's the same thing that's happening on the other side. The other side, the person that's saying that we're trying to prove to that our life is perfect, we are perfect, they're doing the same thing. Nobody's life is perfect. Everybody's got problems. Everybody's got issues. So we are competing with each other to be something that none of us are. And that puts a lot of pressure, comes with a lot of anxiety, comes with a lot of just not having faith in yourself, not believing in yourself. Because if you're pretending, then you don't believe in yourself. You don't think that you, as you are capable of anything. Then you have issues with, what if you're somebody who doesn't know how to handle, any kind of platform, any kind of social media? You can't give anybody that impression. You can't say, oh yeah, I'm just learning this. And that comes with a lot of pressure on its own. So all of these pressures, all of these issues, all of this not knowing and not understanding and trying to prove that you're the best and your life is perfect and your life is better than this person or just as good as that person, or just as much as this person, or just as much as that person, or more than this person. All of those things create a problem. And I know most of you are just going to say, no, I don't have these issues. I don't care. I just do it because it's fun. I just do it because it's, it's easy and I'm having fun with it. And no, I don't have this issue with where I'm thinking other people know more about about the technology, and that bothers me. No, none of that bothers me. It's all good. But if you really think about how all of this sits with you, and we have another thing that we still have to discuss. We can just go over it in just one by one. What does digital burnout look like? You're feeling anxious. And these are not things that I'm just saying just because. These are things that are known, that are studied on, that you're overusing. You're just constantly on your phone, constantly scrolling, constantly looking for new things, one thing after another. That you're, even when you should be studying, or you should be out with somebody, or you should be shopping, even talking to people, you're scrolling. You're on the phone because you have to post a new thing. You have to look at something that's really, really important. And you know how important it really is, right? Your boundaries are blurred. Your physical activity, your fun, other types of fun that don't include social media are all blurred into, but I got to do this first, but I got to look at this first, but this picture was posted, I have to comment on it, I have to talk to this person first on social media. And then there's physical impact on you. Your head hurts, your physical activity, your physical energy is low, you have pain, sleeping pattern, then you're emotionally again anxious, you can't concentrate on things, your motivation to want to do things other than social media is low, you have a hard time making friends, you can't communicate with people properly, you don't want to have people in real life to make friends with, you feel that you connect with people on social media better than you do in real life. You feel pressure to impress people on social media. You want your life to be as good as theirs. You think their life is perfect. You think that you want them to know that you know just as much as they do about things, about life, or that you travel as much as they do, or that you have as much money as they do. These are the signs of digital burnout. Now, I know a lot of us work in this, this realm, and we have to do a lot of these things, a lot of the posting, a lot of the keeping up for work. But we also have to be mindful of the fact that we don't overdo it and, get ourselves hurt. Now, the last thing I want to talk to you about is social media addictions. It's not psychologically, it is not in the DSM-5 as a proper psychological illness, but it's been researched on a lot. और अगर अब ये next कोई लिखी जाएगी book और ये update होगी DSM-5, so I am sure it will be there in the addiction portion of it. So 5 to 20% of the people जो social media को use करते हैं, they show signs of social media addiction. Again, you have to have a very open mind about this, and really, really, if you really care about yourself and people around you, then please take note of this and please take it seriously. It's just as bad as any kind of addiction because signs are the same, symptoms are almost the same, and it's just as hard to get rid of. Mostly shows in teen years. Demographic is pretty much the same, teenagers, boys or girls. Endless scrolling. Walaikum assalam, wazala. Reacting to posts, DMing constantly. So average spends 2 to 4 hours. If you're spending more than 2, that is on the, again, like I said, kind of a higher side. So the psychological factors are self-esteem issues. Definitely, like we talked about all these things. This is going to cause self-esteem issues because we talked about it. Why is it going to cause self-esteem issues? Because social media shows the perfect side of other people. Because other people want to show you the perfect side. And a lot of young adults fall for that. And what I hear from my kids, they're not teenagers yet. But I almost always hear this when I explain this to them. Okay, social media, but you have to be careful. They don't have any social media yet. But whenever they're going on a website or they're playing, any video game where they're going to be strangers, I explain to them, you have to be careful. Strangers se baat nahi karna, ye nahi karna, is tarah hota hai, and, you never know who this stranger is. Don't tell them your real name. Don't give them this information. They're always like, well, we're not stupid. We know. We're not idiots. I mean, we know this and we know, okay. But the thing is that when somebody is showing themselves as a completely different person and they're putting themselves out in a way that is absolutely believable, then a good person, a good and good-hearted and pure person has no reason to doubt them, no matter how much they've been told a certain thing. And then on these platforms, it's even easier to fool somebody. When you have pictures and you're showing them certain atmosphere, you're showing them their house, you're showing them your get up, the things you have, it's really hard to think that, oh, this person's lying to me. But we know that that's happened over and over again. People have lied about how they live and who they are and what they do for a living and all of those things. So it will give you self-esteem issues, thinking, oh, I don't have this person's life and the way they look and who they are. And that does make you feel bad about yourself and your life. So, and that's a big part of it. And that keeps you from making real connections because you feel like, I'm not worthy. I'm not a good enough person. Why would anybody care about me? So then there's self-esteem issues, psychological factors में ये आता है. दूसरा mental health पे impact होता है, जो कि वही बात हो गई. Anxiety levels बढ़ते हैं, depression, loneliness. We talked about all of this because we have a pressure to maintain a certain lifestyle. Because दूसरे लोग, so they're faking it, but you are not going to fake it. You're going to actually maintain that lifestyle. You're actually going to go out and buy those products that they are showing you that they use. They may not be using it. In real life, they may just have the bottle from before that they bought it once or they were given or whatever, and they might be putting any old product inside of it and using it, but you'll go and buy it, right? So to maintain that kind of lifestyle becomes difficult. Then there's a very big factor, which is very, very important to discuss, is the reward system that is extremely addictive, where we get used to being liked. I'm sorry, there was a tiny fly that I wanted to kill. The reward system that we get that is, like I said, addictive. The likes and the comments and the appreciation that we get from the followers that you just want to keep getting. You want more and more of it. And that becomes the need for approval. That becomes, a bigger need than it would be from your own family and friends. Because these are strangers. Your family and friends are just people that you know in real life, and they're gonna, your family especially, they're gonna love you. They're gonna like you no matter what. Getting strangers to like you and show you appreciation is a different kind of, it actually increases your dopamine levels. So when we talk about addiction, it is actually giving you that kick, literal dopamine kick that you would get from drugs. So every time you were posting a picture or putting out some kind of comment or, buying some product and showing it off or showing off your pretty room or your house or whatever else you're doing, every time you do that, and then you go back, check your likes, go back, check your comments, go back and see, okay, do I have any new followers? Every time you do that and you have a positive reaction from others, you get a dopamine kick, like literally in your brain, just like you did some drugs or something. And that is addiction, because obviously your brain gets happy and then you're like, oh great, I'm going to check back in 5 minutes again. And then after an hour, 2 hours, you're like, I got to post again, or I got to post again tomorrow morning, or whatever it may be. And that cycle continues. But then with that cycle is also disappointment, right? So other factors are peer pressure, because then you have your friends and you have people around you, whether physically, that are also online. You have those people, you have their influence. You have to do things the way they're doing things. You have to please them. You have to make sure that you have their approval. Then you have the comparison, that you have to be either as good or better than them. And that pressure of, okay, So online, I have to be just as good as them or better. And then in real life, then I have to be just as good or better. Because जब आप online हैं, तो आप उनको वो एक image दिखा रही हैं. वही लोग फिर, अगर आपके इर्द गिर्द भी हैं, तो फिर आपको वही image keep up करना पड़ेगा ना. बाकियों के साथ तो family है, whatever, they're not gonna care. लेकिन फिर जो आपके peers हैं, उनका influence ज़ाहिर है, फिर online भी है. If you're gonna fake it online, तो उनको तो पता चल जाएगा ना. तो that takes a lot of energy and a lot of work. And if you're doing all that work, you may not know how much it's taking away from you. You're not gonna realize until you stop and take a breath and see how much work you're putting into it. Now, another thing that users don't realize, users meaning platform पे जो users हैं, you know, that we all feel like, it's not a big deal. I'm just scrolling. I'm just going through this. It's not really same things. Like, I can stop anytime I want. I'm just sitting here doing it because I'm bored. I mean, think of something fun and I'll do it. We can do it. All addicts say stuff like that, right? And I said it about scrolling, about, you know, my phone. Now I'm sitting there on my phone and somebody will just be like, oh my God, get off your phone. Why are you on your phone? And I've said, तुम बताओ कुछ करना है तो करते हैं, कर लूंगी मैं, I'll stop. लेकिन अभी तो कुछ नहीं हो रहा ना, अभी तो I'm just sitting here bored. I've said that. All of us have. But if you're able to put your phone down and actually do something else and not still be thinking about your phone and thinking, okay, I'd rather just be sitting here, sukoon se, and playing on my phone. If you can honestly say that to yourself, then you're okay. But most of us, I don't know, maybe most of us are addicted. I don't know. But we have to really check ourselves and we have to see कि हम कहाँ पर हैं. And it's not a small thing. We have to also consider this कि हम पहले जो बात कर रहे थे कि ये जो है, this whole thing was made for consumers, कि more and more buyers. And then जब उन्होंने देखा कि इनकी जो basic जो इनके consumers हैं वो एज ग्रुप क्या थी, तो फिर उन्होंने इसको डिज़ाइन इस तरह करना शुरू कर दिया कि इनकी एक तो एड्स और कंपनीज इस तरह की कि जो टारगेट करें इस एज ग्रुप को, right? But then they realized another thing, कि not just the companies, not just what they're selling, but the platforms themselves have to be appealing. They can't just have, you know, a square, you know, in there and then just put videos on it. No. Then they started making it interactive. They put filters, they put all these other things that you could buy. So they're making sales there too. And then they keep updating. And then why are they doing all that? They don't care about you. They don't care about me and my business and my work. You know, something pops up like, oh, now you can do this with your business. Only $20. You can buy this and this will do this and this will enhance that. Sometimes they're good products. Sometimes we go for those. But they don't care about my business. They don't care about you and your fun and how those filters are going to make you look like this or that, or, you know, a crown on your head and your face turning this way or that way. No, they don't care about any of that. They're making money. And they're getting you hooked. Jitne filters they're going to throw at you, jitni zyada shapes and colors and designs and all these things they're going to keep adding to this, the more you will be connected to your phone, stuck to it and not want to leave it. So you see, they want you to be addicted to this because they make money off of you. What happens to you, your mental health, your physical health, your education, your work, that's not their concern. So that's also something that we need to keep in mind, that this is not a small thing. This is not just, a few games here and there, or a few platforms that you talk on or look things on. The other thing is there's other bigger consequences. This is a point that to keep in mind, but there are bigger consequences. People go to bigger issues because of these kinds of things. People have like eating disorders. Coping becomes a bigger problem. Like if you're showing people a perfect, if you're showing people that people on here are looking perfect, you're constantly showing perfect people. You're constantly showing perfect skins, perfect clothing, perfect bodies, perfect, that's going to take a toll on real people, because real people don't look perfect, because perfect is not a thing. Right? Perfect is not a thing. So there's eating disorders, there's body dysmorphia, where you think your body looks a certain way when it doesn't. There's all sorts of illnesses and mental issues that come out of that. And we could go in detail of that, but we don't have the time. And then there's, what else? Yeah, we talked about this. Yeah, another big thing, attention span. So as social media is growing and they're getting more and more technologically complex, meaning they're adding filters and they're adding more details and giving us more things to add and things to play around with, attention span is getting less and less. People's attention span. Because the videos and the clips and the reels, they're getting very, very... People talk really, really fast and they explain things to you in 20 seconds and it's gone. And what you understand from that, who knows? Maybe they're able to explain things to you really well in 20 seconds. What that does now is that nobody is going to watch this 1 hour video explaining this in detail. Because, dude, you could have said that in 20 seconds, but I could not have. There is no way I could have gone through all of this scientific data, all of this, psychological information, and all of these things in 20 seconds or 1 minute or 2 minutes. So the focus, like we talked about, focus is there's no way to focus when you are in a rush to get to the next topic, the next video, the next reel or whatever. Even if you're reading a post that's 4 lines. It gets to 10 lines and you're like, oh gosh, that's okay, I'll come back to that. So our attention span is getting less and less. Yeah. You see, we don't have enough time to read. We don't want to read. We don't want to watch long videos. And that's absolutely not healthy and absolutely not okay, generally, for especially young adults. Because all of the learning happens by reading or by watching things that are longer, right? So it becomes really hard, and it will become harder and harder for most of you to learn things, because you will get bored and you lose focus every time you're ready to learn something. It will become harder because you're not going to focus. You're not going to be able to understand what you're reading, and you're gonna have to take more breaks. And that's what I do. I don't know how my kids do it in school, but now I have to give them more breaks. Every 10 minutes, we take a break, 5-minute break, and then we come back and we do the work that they're doing, and then we take a break, and then we come back and do the work. And it works, but overall, that's one of the biggest setbacks along with many other. Because after like 5 minutes, it's with my kids, I notice that when we are, watching something together after 5 minutes, they're like, how long is it? Pause it and check how long, because they're done. And of course, education, academic performances, and career, and all of that. We're just going to go to interventions. CBT is one, where you, cognitive behavioral therapy, it's a type of therapy that you can, but it's a long process. You have to be patient and you have to work with the client. And then there's self-regulation. Listen, self-regulation is going to be hard, but I feel like for most young adults, you guys can do it. You guys are capable. And this is not one of those things that you don't know about or you're not aware of. You're smart enough. Do your own research. Figure out what this is. And if you are even addicted, then take care of it. Even if you're not, then manage your time. Figure out how to do this. And for younger children, if you're a parent, then I would absolutely suggest to give them time limits and be strict about it. There's a lot of parental control, gadgets and on phones and TVs and computers. You can, do all those kinds of things. Again, do your research, find out how to do it. And then the time limits because with those kinds of time limits, it shuts down on its own. Like you give them an hour, after an hour, it's going to shut down on its own with parental control. First, of course, talk to them. Sit down and explain to them why you're doing this. And then just do it. They're going to throw a tantrum. They're going to be upset. They're going to ask you a million times why you're doing it. We're okay, but we're not going to do it again. And we'll shut it off ourselves and all those things. They're not going to. You have to be strict. If you start now, then with younger children, if you start now, then by the time they're older, they'll already know that these boundaries were set and that's just how it has to be. So by the time they're old enough to be responsible for themselves, उस वक्त तक उनको आदत पड़ चुकी होगी कि अच्छा बस हमें 1 घंटा ही मिलता है, या 2 घंटे ही मिलते हैं. तो that's just how it is. तो वो उनकी आदत उस चीज़ की कि हर वक्त कंप्यूटर पे बैठना है या हर वक्त फ़ोन हाथ में है और स्क्रॉलिंग हो रही है, वो ख़त्म हो चुकी होगी. उनको आदत ही नहीं होगी तो वो करेंगे नहीं, एंड देन वो हैबिट परमानेंट हो जाएगी. अगर just to give you an example for my kids, and I know I was saying all these things because they bother me about it, they do, but summer में उनको थोड़ी सी खुली वो हुई थी कि 2 घंटे computer time they could have it, और उन्होंने वही किया हुआ setup के they don't have internet की option on their computer ever. और चीज़ें हैं, they can write and do other activities on the computer, but internet के लिए they have 2 hours these days because छुट्टियाँ हैं. School days में तो कोई computer internet को कोई चक्कर ही नहीं है. So they have 2 hours. They do those 2 hours. 2 घंटे के बाद time खुद ही खत्म हो जाता है. And that's it. And they can have those 2 hours after they've done everything else. Like Quran teacher, they're doing some other, stuff. They're done with all that. Then they can have their 2 hours and that's it. They're no TV, no computer, nothing. They're just done. And then they can find things to do throughout the day. If you keep that up, शुरू में they had a problem with it, but now they just know that that's all they're going to get, and it is what it is, right? And school days, man, there's no computer, no phone, nothing. Weekends, school, after school, same thing, 2 hours. After homework and after, the Quran teacher and everything. So, थोड़ा सा first शुरू में हुआ, problem होते थे, but I didn't get enough time, but I need to finish this, I need to finish that. Now they're used to it. Now I'm hoping what that will do is when they're old enough and they have a phone, older one has a phone, but again, it's the same thing. He doesn't get internet on that, so he just kind of plays games, I guess, whatever he has, and some things here and there. But when they're old enough and they have a free range of this, hopefully their brains will be trained to just have minimal time and do minimal things, not always be sitting on it because they're not used to doing that. And now they're just like so settled on it. They don't feel like we want to and we should all the time. And for older kids, I feel like now you can't take things away from them. Now you can't put timers on them, because they're older. But you can sit down and have talks with them and explain things to them and explain why you think this is important, that they need to cut down their time or they need to rethink how they're managing the situation. And if you think that it is kind of out of hand, then maybe consider therapy, consider help for them. Because if you think it's to the point of addiction, then definitely take it seriously, because we don't consider it addiction. But it is scientifically proven that it can go to the level of addiction. तो इसको please ignore नहीं करें. Definitely seriously लें. सिर्फ बच्चों के लिए नहीं. We're talking about 18 to 24, but छोटे बच्चों के लिए भी this can be addiction, and this age group के लिए भी, young adults के लिए भी it can be addiction. So please don't just kind of take it lightly, because later on in life then it becomes a problem. Because we can't live our lives in seconds and minutes. Life is lived, in bulk. And that's how you enjoy it. You don't enjoy, if you're not focused on it, if you're not focused on people, on events, then you miss out. You miss out on a lot of things. Because these days we're just focused on seconds of information and minutes of information and small little bite-sized information. But no, we need to have more than that from life. So let's try to help each other through all of this. And remember that this was all designed, or is designed even now, and becoming more and more about selling and advertisement and using our money, just taking our money. It's not for our benefit. This constant flow of information and for a flow of products, it's not for our benefit. All right, I've taken a lot of your time, and I hope you got something out of this. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to me. We will see you next time, and have a good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, and see you later.